Welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse, and tonight it's another episode in our Bon Jovi showdown. Convert the critic. The critic is me. I don't like Bon Jovi, but can this panel convince me otherwise? Tonight we're looking at Slippery When Wet and New Jersey. Let's do it.
Grant's Rock Warehouse, now with the look and feel of hand-tooled leather.
All right, welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse. Sorry about the rocky start, but sometimes if you know anything about Zoom and you know anything about StreamYard, sometimes you jump from one to the other, you got issues. Anyway, the Elder is gone, but I'm sure he'll be back. Tonight is the Bon Jovi showdown. We are looking at Slippery When Wet and New Jersey. We've got the Elder that's not here. We've got the Parish. We've got Dave here. We're going to talk about this, but we're going to start out playing a track from Slippery When Wet. So,
are you sure?
100%. I know this thing's working. So let me see who's here tonight. Got Cretin. We've got Kyle. We've got the Devil. Brian's here. We're ready. It's all ready. So there you go. Who's zooming who? Exactly. Well, the Elder will be back. He's probably rebooting. So let's get started. So we're going to start out with the opening track of Slippery When Wet. This is just a mess of a song. So listen to this. And I apologize for a rough start, but damn it, Zoom, you had it in for me. So I've got Dave, I've got the Elder, I've got the Parish here tonight. Nice to see you, gentlemen. And of course, I'm not a Bon Jovi fan. I've never heard this whole album in my life until I bought it. Now, I'm hoping someone can convert me. But I'm going to throw it over to Dave, and then we'll go to the Parish and the Elder. Dave, what's your thoughts on this record? And I'm going to want your rating out of 5. And I'm going to want people in the chat as well, your rating out of 5 for this record. So anyway, go ahead, Dave.
Okay,
Thank you for coming.
So to be clear, we're rating out of 5, not 10.
I mean 10. Jesus, sorry.
I mean, is that what you gave them, a 5? Is that why you said that, Grant? You give this, is it your
I'm not going to say a word yet.
Maximum Grant can give them
so we know what
10
Grant's
as a 5.
giving the album. So there we go. Maybe we can change that by the time it gets around the horn. Let's see. So
all I can say was when I listened to this song, I don't like the gang vocals.
Yeah. Well,
I don't particularly like the drum sound on it.
So
there's a lot of things I don't like about it.
Yeah. Okay. So this particular period, obviously for me, this album is pretty nostalgic. This is the first rock record I owned. This is the sort of my gateway to, becoming a guitar player. And so, and this is also the era that has all of the, trappings of all the detractors, all the things, if you want to look, or it's a girl band, or it's too poppy, or all the things. This is the era where you're going to find all of those trappings, right? But to me, I think this is a really good record. I think that this period of Bon Jovi that we're going to talk about today, is not arguably is their most commercial period, right?
Yeah, because I don't want to interrupt Dave, but I'm just saying the previous 2 records aren't quite as commercial as this.
Right. I mean, these two, obviously, for a lot of reasons, right? I mean, the band has evolved a little bit. There's MTV is taken off. You add Desmond Child to the mix. I mean, there's a lot of things that are happening that are converging that kind of makes, and a lot of albums of the time, make them, diamond records, right? I mean, Superman's a diamond record. I think that it's for me, obviously the first rock record, my first concert, in fact, looking at my ticket stub, June 20th, 1987. So just a few days past 38 years since my first rock concert, which was this tour, summer 1987. I think this record is, really, really strong. I think it's not perfect. I think that in my opinion, there's a few songs that I don't know if I would go as far as say filler, but are not super strong for me. I think songs like Social Disease, maybe, which I like. I listen to this record a million times, right? And so I know it backwards and forwards. So there's really nothing I don't like on it, but I think it has some highs. Like for me, Wanted Dead or Alive is a high. Probably one of my favorite songs in the catalog. I know that a lot of people don't like that song. It's hard for people to get their head around a bunch of guys from New Jersey wanting to be cowboys. It's a little bit, it maybe seems a little bit contrived, like, hey, but for me, I like the song a lot. I think it's interesting. I think the way it's not arranged, it's not arranged in a way that is consistent with the time, having sort of that intro tag occur in the middle of the song and at the end, and then sort of there's a solo in the middle instead of after. There's really no bridge, and there's a solo in the middle that leads to another verse, which is sort of odd. So I think it's interesting, the arrangement of Wanted Dead or Alive. It doesn't follow the sort of the standard pattern that we see of the time. And like I said, I think songs like Social Disease and maybe Without Love, for me, don't land as much, even though Without Love is one of the 4 Desmond Child co-writes. I don't think they land. And I think, and John has even admitted, I mean, not being sort of the best A&R guy, he didn't want Living on a Prayer on this record. Didn't think it was strong. And I'll mention, this record, there's a song called Edge of a Broken Heart, which John did not want on this record, which didn't make the record, which is probably stronger than, many of the songs on the record. And I think it did appear on the Disorderly movie soundtrack with the Fat Boys. And also you can find it on the box set. But I mean, if you can think that song is, ended up on the B-side floor, was probably strong. I'm gonna, give this album, I waffled a little bit because it's not a perfect record to me. I mean, it's perfect in a nostalgia sense, and I think there's some really highs on this record. But when I put it and I think of what do I think is a perfect record, this is not it. So I'm gonna give this, I'm gonna give it an 8.5. I think that, and maybe it wasn't as high as I might have thought I would give it, but it's not because I don't like it. It's just because when I put it up maybe against other albums that, having 40 years of, listening to records and say, how does it compare to an album that I think might be perfect all the way through? I think that while it has some real highs and maybe houses a song that I consider maybe one of my favorite songs of all time and Wanted Dead or Alive, it has a few songs that I think are maybe average. And I think that for that reason, I can't really give it, in good conscience, I can't give it the nostalgia, from the heart vote. I'm going to try to be objective as best I can, but I think there's a lot to like here. I think it's of the time. But 8.5 for me.
All right, 8.5. All right. So when you listen to this, though, I guess it all depends upon when you come into this. When I lived through the 80s, and I never think twice about it, but it just sounds so dated now. You know what I mean? Kind of like Def Leppard sounds really dated.
Yeah, I mean, it
Elder's
definitely
coming
has
back.
80s production. I mean, Bruce Fairbairn has, a certain style, a certain production, certainly has that. I mean, certainly, in contrast to a lot of bands of the era, I mean, they have a keyboard player that's prominent and on stage. I mean, certainly there's no secret to John's sort of admiration of Springsteen, who had 2 piano player and a keyboard player on stage most of the time, right? So, I think, where a lot of bands either hid their keyboard player or, denied they ever had one. I mean, Bon Jovi is one of the few bands of the era that from the very beginning had the keyboard prominent on stage. But again, I mean, I think, and we talked about last time, I think it probably goes worth mentioning that, the songwriting overall, I think advances over the first 2. And I think Richie's playing advances over the first 2 in terms of falling into his style and some of the guitar solos. And I think, again, I think the hybrid or the meshing between John and Richie's vocals really is as much the distinctive Bon Jovi sound as anything. I mean, anything without him feels like a Bon Jovi solo record because You know, I think that's as distinctive as anything when those two voices sort of come together. To me, that's, if I pick one thing, you know, say that sounds like Bon Jovi, it's them two singing together, right, with those high harmonies. And I could talk forever. I'm gonna pass it off and let
All right.
somebody else have.
Well, wait till we get to me, Jesus. That's going to be something. All right, thank you. So we've got an 8.5.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw it over to the Parish of Rock. What's your thoughts on Slippery When Wet and the scoreable production?
Well, I'm going to start with that opening track, and I'm going to put it into context that if you're in an arena or a theatre and the lights dim, that keyboard then comes over the PA, the audience goes wild, which they did, and then the guitars kick in, the song kicks in, Bon Jovi runs on stage. It is one of the best opening songs, I think, of a concert.
Okay.
It's right up there, and so I mentioned last time I first came across Bon Jovi opening for Kiss on the Animalized tour at Wembley Arena. I think this is like a Kiss song.
Oh.
You could
go ahead.
you
Sorry,
could
we got
Kiss.
Jesus, a negative 70 rocker? Are you sure?
No, that's
Maybe
dash 7.
Maybe it's just a dash 7. Maybe it's
Is that a dash 7 or a negative 7? Gee, damn.
Dash 7.
Well, it could be a negative 7. Perhaps he just doesn't like them.
I don't know. We'll find out. I'm not putting his. I want to be honest with everything. Okay, it's a dash. I don't want to not put your right score in. That's all right. All right.
So they toured with Kiss. I think this is a Kiss-like opener for a concert. I love the keyboards. I think David Bryan is one of their secret weapons, if you like, that a lot of other bands don't have. Although in same year you've got Europe Out, the Final Countdown, which has also got similar kind of keyboards on it. So it was certainly a thing at the time to have that sound. I think for me, it's got some great songs on there. You might say you've heard them too many times, but You Give Love a Bad Name and Living on a Prayer, I think, are excellent pop rock songs. And if I hear them played in a disco or at a wedding, or if I'm at a rock concert, I was at Download Donington a couple of weeks ago and it came over the speakers, everybody's up rocking out to those two songs. It was Living on a Prayer. So to me, they are the sort of songs that bring people who are not normally into rock music and brings them across. I don't know if I think this is only in the UK, but Living in the Prayer is the most listened to song on as a download from 1986. So every song that was released in 1986, Living on the Prayer is the most listened to song. So that just, to me, attracts people who are not rock fans into the rock genre. And from a career progression, they opened for Kiss at Wembley. They then came over on this tour initially and did the Dominion Theatre in London, which is about 2,000, I guess, as a seater. They then came back later on the tour and did 4 nights at Hammersmith Odeon, sold out. I would say 99% guys at those concerts, they were not seen as a chick band over here. I think I mentioned last time, we just didn't get that kind of publicity. Bon Jovi was seen as a serious rock band over here. You know, they're on the Donington. In I think it was 87. They're on Donington. They've got Metallica, and then they've got Bon Jovi, and then headlining they've got ZZ Top. They're classed in the UK in that kind of same vein. They just don't. They're not seen the same way as you guys see them. I don't think. They certainly weren't back then. I think it's changed in more recent years. And I think it's got, as I say, Living on a Prayer and You Give Love a Bad Name, I think are brilliant songs, well crafted. The thing they got most from Kiss was getting, I think, was probably Desmond Child's phone number. Mm-hmm. They obviously got his number off him because he'd written, hadn't he, for Kiss for a number of years. And it definitely made a difference to them. I wanted Dead or Alive. I think it's quite an interesting song. Just picking up on that because I don't mind the imagery of the lyrics of the kind of comparing the motorbike with the horse. Maybe from somebody sat in a dark grey London pub, that kind of imagery seemed quite appealing actually. Trying to sort of link the two things together. But I do like the guitar in it. I think that kind of country, almost country feel rock guitar to it, I think is good. But I do think there's songs that are a bit average. Social Disease, I think, is average. Raise Your Hands, I think, is average. I don't like I'd Die For You. That's one of his, or Bon Jovi's typical sort of ballady rock songs that they do quite a lot. I'm not a big fan of that.
You know what, Parrish? That gets a lot of play still over here.
Yeah,
well
I think it does over here, but it's a side of Bon Jovi I don't particularly like. But I think Wild in the Streets is a great closer. So I think that, I mean, typically with Bon Jovi, typically with a lot of bands, I like the up-tempo rockers. I'm not so keen on what I call the wimp out ballads. I'm not a big ballads fan. I have to say at the time, I liked the album at the time. I didn't love the album. And I guess I still don't really love the album in that context.
Okay.
I think better's to come. And I'd give it a 7.5. So I like it. I think it's a decent album. I think it's got some killer tracks, but I think it's got some filler on there as well. But who am I to criticize an album that sold 15 million in the US alone? And let's be honest, it's still the reason why they're known and loved around the world, and why people remarkably are wanting Bon Jovi to tour again. It's this
Parrish,
album, isn't it? It's this song.
Do your input. You're like cutting in and out, like
staticky.
People could hear you, but now say
Is
something.
that any better?
No, it's doing it still.
I'll come out and then I'll come back in
come
again.
out, come back in. It's all right. It's all good. So we've got Parrish is 7.5. All right, that's fair enough. Elder, I'm praying that you have an internet connection. At least if we can hear you, we're good.
All right.
So what's your thoughts on Slippery When Wet?
Let's try this out. Okay.
I always wondered if he called in on his phone, if it would be better.
So yeah, my thoughts. Own songs on here. What's that?
I was thinking, all right,
I don't know. I'm falling out again now. All right.
No, go ahead. You're good. What I said is, I wonder what it would be like if you called in. You could sit there, but you called in on your phone.
On this, the living on a prayer and the.
This makes no sense.
All right. So I'm just gonna say so some of the things I wrote down: Social Disease. I thought the intro to that was pretty funny, but other than that, the song I don't really like. I think Parrish, you said that they writing tips from Kiss, because some of the lyrics on here are just like to Social Disease, just like these typical kind of 80s rock lyrics. The song Without Love was okay, but I thought it had a really boring guitar solo in it. This is like dee, dee, I don't know. It's like what? Raise Your Hands, kind of a cool rocker. And another thing I remember, this is like I think the first in his series of hand songs. So I think it was on the shot of the ship going by, and he had a bumper sticker on there, and they're playing this song, Raise Your Hands. The lyrics, just your typical like these Bon Jovi lyrics, written for teenage girls. And so anyway, I just say, like, musically, I don't find this album, but did you catch any of that?
Most of it. What did you rate it out of 10?
6.
Did
I'll
you
give
say
it a 6.
A 6? Jesus. All right, cool. No, what I was saying is that I wonder if you would do this, like call in on your phone and do it, if it would be better. 6, I got it. It is a space-time continuum issue, ladies and gentlemen. The Elder is in Florida. They barely have internet in Florida, based on what I know. All right, so this is my thoughts on this thing. Thank you, Elder. I appreciate it. This is my thoughts. Yeah, I listened to it. Where's my notes? Okay, here we go.
Only with StreamYard.
Only with StreamYard. This is the way I look at it. We've got 10 tracks. The album's 44 minutes. This is before the era where we got into the 90s when they would pump stuff full of tracks. So 45 minutes I can deal with it. It opens up with Let It Rock, which I think is a memorable filler. I wouldn't have opened up with that. I would have opened up with You Give Love a Bad Name, which is a better track. Okay, let's be honest. You Give a Love a Bad Name is great. Well, no, it's not that great. It's okay. Living on a Prayer is okay. Wanted Dead or Alive. Wanted Dead or Alive is probably the best song on it, but they play it too much, so that ruins it. But the thing is, I don't care for the production. I don't particularly care for the drum sounds on here. Side 2 opens up with Raise Your Hands, unmemorable, Without Love. I can't even remember how it goes. I Die For You. That's the one, I do remember that one. Never Say Goodbye. It's okay. Wild in the Streets. I think it's mostly front loaded and the side 2 is lacking a lot. I understand that it's sold well. A lot of people have it, but I don't get it. This is just a pop band. This isn't, back in the day, they would look at this and they would call this heavy metal. There is nothing heavy about it. It's just a pop band. This is pop. No? Yes? No. All right. I hear it as just pop.
Well,
Pop.
it
Pop.
depends what you class as pop. So in the same context that back in the early
I agree.
70s, people
Not
would have
metal.
classed Sweet
Alan
as
O'Day.
pop. People would have classed Slade as pop. People would class T-Rex as pop. So in that regard, yes, it's a pop album. But it's not pop. It's not a pop album in regards of what was coming out in '86. This isn't the pop that was coming out in '86. You think of Cyndi Lauper, or you think of Michael Jackson, etc. Yeah, exactly.
Raise Your Hands is just bad. Beatles are a pop band, 100%. 100%, Grant, not rocking enough. There, see? But at the time, they were lumped into that whole heavy metal thing. But there's nothing metal about this.
You see them live and they turn the guitars up. It's a rock concert. Absolutely a rock concert.
I think
Jason says it's rock, not part. That's all right.
It's not metal. I absolutely agree. It's not metal. But you know, this is as rock to me as say Queen was rock, or
well, not if you're talking Sheer Heart Attack or you're talking Queen 2
but it is if you're talking Day at the Races or Night at the Opera or News of the World. I reckon it's as rock as that.
I like this. I like what let me find it. Kyle said it's a pop band with loud guitars.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
It's always difficult when we start to put things into boxes and genres, but I know that's what we do on these things. But I think to me, it's a hard rock album or it's a rock album. But I'll say this: I think it's probably as much, it's almost like calling Garth Brooks country. I mean,
he's not country at all.
But I'm saying, like, it's pop music wrapped up in country with pedal steel guitars and twangy vocals. But ultimately, those are just really good, catchy, hooky songs, right? I mean, and I think Bon Jovi to the same degree. as a rock band, but under peel it back. I mean, they're just really good, catchy, hooky songs, right? I mean,
well, some of it you give love a bad. See, the thing is what is good on here is good, but what is filler on here is filler.
well, I think that was sort of maybe what I was alluding to when I went on my diatribe. I think this album really was carried by the 3 or 4 big hits, and that's what really drove it, right? I mean, I think we all agree, even those of us that like Parrish and I that really like this album, that really sort of carrying the flag for this band, both I think readily admit, I think that there is some average material mixed in with the stuff that really kind of drove the sales, right?
I think Kyle's onto it. There's
also-
nothing metal about it. It's more like watered down arena rock.
Well, it's not
I think
metal.
I think
I
it's
don't think
it's where
anybody
you
will cry,
stand, though,
right?
isn't it? It's where you stand. So if you are into Metallica, if you're into Motorhead, if you're into Iron Maiden, then this sounds like pop. But if you're
Okay.
into pop music, this sounds like rock. It depends.
It just fills
depends,
that niche.
It depends where
Kinda
you
in
start.
between.
Yeah.
I just don't.
And I agree. Effective.
I
I think it is effectively
mean,
pop music with loud
it's a-
guitars. But I would
it's a-
I would sum up. That's what I
the-
like most about music.
pop album in the same way Pyromania is a pop album.
Oh yeah, pop. That
Yeah,
is
I mean,
pop.
There's
That is
definitely
Pyromania's not pop.
That
I mean-
Pyromania is not Pyromania, but Hysteria.
Hey, Stereo, yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah.
and
Damn it, Elder, you were wrong.
I think
Hysteria is pop.
I mean, it's a
record.
pop rock album. It's a pop rock album.
Heavy pop music, says
Yeah, but
Maureen.
the Pyromania has like pop rock albums.
This is my take. I think there's some good songs on here that are overplayed on the radio that have been, it's like listening to Back in Black. It's been played to death. And I think what has been played to death are the best tracks on it. And the rest of it's just unmemorable. There's no record here where I can go on the whole record and go, this is a 10 out of 10 record. This is
Right.
probably a 5 out of. This is just a mediocre record.
there's your 5.
There's
the
my 5. Yeah,
I
give it a
think-
5.
I mean, if anybody's familiar with, and probably not, I don't know if anybody listening on here is familiar with Bonnie Tyler's work. I mean, if you listen to Bonnie Tyler released a song in 1986 that Desmond Child co-wrote called I think it was called "If I Were a Woman and You Were a Man," which is very Desmond Child, right? All the very his writing, right? You give love a bad name. I hate myself for loving you. So the whole thing, if I was a woman and you were a man, if you listen to that Bonnie Tyler song, the melody is you give love a bad name. He reuses the melody. It's the same song.
Mhm.
I mean, for the melody wise. So I mean, if while we're talking pop, I mean, it's that was, I think, a hit for her overseas. When they're doing this, he says, "Hey, I used it once. Maybe it'll work here again." So, sort of a rehash there.
Well,
Fun
so
fact.
far in this whole process, I haven't hit a record that I would ever return to yet. Now, when we did the Grand Funk thing, we're American band, and what's the album after that? The Brain. I can't remember. The two Todd
Red
Rundgren,
album?
the one that's got like the 3D cover. Oh shit, The Brain. The two Todd Rundgren albums I thought were absolutely phenomenal. And I kind of liked everything else later in the catalog. Hey, I'm not saying I'm not going to find something I like, but I haven't found it yet. And I can see why people would like this, but it's just too commercial. It's just something about it. There's just not Shining On. I love Shining On. That we're an American band. That's a great record. So, Slade were way better than these guys. Anyway.
Elders left the building.
The Elders left the. Look at that. What's he got back there? Is that like leopard? What is going on? Zebra skin bed? I don't know what the Elders got going. Shit's happening over at Elders pad. There he is. Elder, what do you got?
Oh, you're
No,
fresh from me.
he's in
Okay.
space time. I'm talking.
So this
to you.
album, we're talking about New
Not yet. No. Let's play a
Jersey.
track from New Jersey. Let's play something. So hold on, Elder.
Okay.
We'll play something from New Jersey now. So New Jersey came out. Let me do the intro to New Jersey. It came out in 1988. This was the follow-up to Slippery When Wet. This came out to capitalize on the newfound fame that Slippery When Wet gave Bon Jovi. This has Bruce Fairbairn here producing, and it was recorded in Canada. It's kind of similar, I think, to Slippery When Wet. Maybe the panel may disagree, but let's listen. Let's listen to the opening track from this monumental effort, and just to get everybody kind of up to snuff. Make up Argent, 100%. God dang. This song is better than the intro. Production, again, not great. No, it's very bombastic. The drums wear me out. But that's not about me yet. Let's throw it over to Dave. Dave, what's your thoughts on New Jersey and your rating out of 10?
Yeah.
What's
Sorry,
your
let me
thoughts
turn
on
my
that?
volume. That when we go with audio with the music gets loud. So let me
That's the way it's supposed to be, Dave.
gets a little
If
distorts
it's
my
too
speak-
loud, you're too
this-
old.
This distorts my poor little speakers. All right,
Oh.
so this album, so by this point, like I'm all in, right, on Bon Jovi in my evolution, right? So I think the only thing more difficult than doing an album that sells 15 million copies is following it up, right? And I think it's hard to follow that up, and I think they did a really good job. I think they stuck with essentially the same formula. They go to Canada and they have the same producer, and Desmond Child's involved. But I think to me the songs are better. I think while I'm a big fan of "Wanna Dead or Alive," which I said before, one of my favorite songs, I think through and through. I think this is a top to bottom. I think overall this is a better album to me. I think that I think the songwriting continues to evolve. I saw this show live 3 times. Skid Row was opening, so I mean they certainly had hard rock bands opening. I mean Skid Row's touring their first album, and they're out on the road with them, and including so 3 times, including back-to-back nights at the Forum. So when you're playing that song, Lay Your Hands on Me, the image in my mind is as Parrish said, I mean it's opening the show, right? I mean I think when they're doing this record, it's more of a it's really they're building the intro for their show, because this thing in an arena certainly has the build, and then right when the song really kicks in, they pop up through the floor, right? All the trappings of the 80s, right? Every 80s cliche that you think of, right? But and they kick right in. This album's longer. I mean, it's 50. I think it's 57 minutes. So it's a little bit longer, to your point earlier, Grant. I think it was originally called Sons of Beaches, was the working title before they changed it to New Jersey. But like I said, I think all in all, I like the material better. I like Wild as the Wind. I think Blood on Blood is one of the best songs they ever done. Some days it's my favorite song in the catalog, certainly in the top 2 or 3 always. I think I like, I said Wild as the Wind, I like Stick to Your Guns, I think is really strong. So I tend to, if I'm ranking this album, while I like the singles, I think Bad Medicine is has worn on me a little bit. I don't know that I like it as much as it was successful. I think it's not as good as maybe as maybe others like it. It's not terrible. It seems pretty average to me. Song like Bad Medicine. I think Born to Be My Baby is a good song. Good written song. There's an acoustic version on the expanded anniversary set for New Jersey. So overall, I think it's a better record. I think the songwriting is better. And as I mentioned earlier, I think that this era, these two albums are the commercial peak for this band, but I will argue that maybe the next two are their artistic peak, and we'll talk about those when we get to them. But
Okay.
if so, don't get off the train yet, Grant. I think
I'm not off the train.
when we talk about this, the next two albums, I think we're going to talk about Bon Jovi maybe getting away from some of these cliches and getting more into maybe a more artistic period. I think with the next two, so we'll get there. But overall, I like this record better. One of the first records I went and got, on release day. But there is a cool, like an anniversary edition of this where you can get the album, has all of the demos, with the Sons of Beaches demos. So some of the songs that didn't make the record or demo versions. Then there's a DVD with like the videos and things like that. Interestingly, so the Alice Cooper song House of Fire was a Bon Jovi demo, kind of a throwaway that didn't make this record that Alice Cooper ended up recording. But there's a Bon Jovi, obviously their demo version is on here. But in any case, I like this record a lot better. I'm going to give it a 9.
Right.
I don't think it's perfect. I think for me, I think Bad Medicine is an average song. Most might disagree. And to me also, a Homebound Train doesn't speak to me much at all. I think it plods along. It doesn't, while some people might like it, it's a little bit of departure as a harmonica. It's pretty cool, has a catchy chorus, but for me, it doesn't speak to me. So I don't think it's a 10, top to bottom. Okay. But I'm going to give it a 9.
All right, cool. Awesome. All right. Thanks, Dave. Anybody in the chat, I've got 1 10. Someone gave me a 10. If you want to give me your scores on this album, I'm ready to take them. I'm going to throw it over to the Paris. Paris, what's your thoughts and your score out of 10? Okay, and why should I like this record?
I think you should like this album because I think on the previous album they were trying too hard, and they were trying to have a hit album. This album to me sounds like they just went in the studio. It was all one take and they're out again the next day. That's what it sounds like to me. I don't hear the same production at all. It sounds to me, particularly on side 2 from Homeward Bound Train, Wild as the Wind, Ride Cowboy Ride. It sounds like one take. You can hear them having a chat. You can hear them talking. You can hear them having fun. It just doesn't sound like the same band to me. It sounds like a new band that's finding a way of having fun in the studio. I think side 1's a bit different. I think side 1 still has a bit of carryover from, I think Lay Your Hands on Me is another great opening for an album and for the tour. Bad Medicine I really like. Born to Be My Baby and Living in Sin I'm not so keen on. I think, again, they're that typical Bon Jovi sort of half ballad, half rock. Blood on Blood, I think, is really good, and I think that's the start for me of the looseness and the feeling that they're actually just in there having fun. And I think, as I say, side 2 is an entirely different band. It's a different, to me, this is, and I thought this at the time when I put it on, I couldn't believe how somebody could come off such a mega album and almost seem to go into the studio and just be almost laissez-faire over the whole thing, not really that fussed about whether it's a hit album or not. That's how it comes across. So you've got a bit of blues in there, you've got a bit of country. 99 in the Shade, I think, is really good. Love's for Sale at the end, it just sounds like something they recorded just before they went home and then thought, oh yeah, stick it on the album. It's, it's a bit of fun. So I think it's a very different album. Side 2, I think, is a very different album to Slippery When Wet. It's a rock album, but it's not a heavy rock album. It's kind of similar to what Cinderella, in my view, started to move into after Long Cold Winter. They started to go a bit more bluesy, a bit looser with their music. I think Bon Jovi's done the same here. So, and to me, this, I mean, Slippery When Wet, I liked it at the time, but I was kind of getting a bit bored with them, I think. This is the album that got me back into them at the time. Went to see them twice. They had Queensryche tour with them in the UK, plus a UK band called FM. I seem to remember toured with them as well.
I've got an FM CD.
Yeah. So yeah, well there you go. So I like this album a lot. It's probably my second favorite Bon Jovi album, and I'll give it a 9 as well. I think
A
yeah.
9. Good. All right.
I think that's a
Elder?
great point. The elder that Parrish brought up, how how it has a feeling of looseness and sort of flows, but yet if you watch the documentary, I mean, this album was painful, right? It was long, it was hard, it was hard to birth this album. There was tremendous pressure to live up to the bar that Slippery set, and like the pressure. I mean, it was hard for these guys to birth this record, and so for it to come out the other end, and if we didn't know that otherwise, and have a feel of sort of this, hey, we went in for 7 days and this thing came out and it has this kind of loose feel to it, is interesting and kind of cool, given the fact that we know how difficult the birthing of this was.
Well, you know what they say,
Bin
Dave.
Laden
They
was
say you can't
torturing
fool the
Bon
people all of
Jovi.
the. You can't fool all the people all the time, but you can fool Parrish most of the time. So there you go.
Well, so far, I do like what Dave said. I think I'm looking forward more to the next records because you're saying that takes more of an artistic standpoint. And Parrish, I do agree with you on here. The side 2 on this record is quite a bit different than Slippery. So I think that they probably are growing as a band. Yeah. I'm not as harsh on this record as I Slippery When Wet. Anyway. God, let's hope the Elder can. Elder, you can. What do you let us know? All right, we're ready. Maybe.
There he is.
Hello, you ready for me?
Hello, I barely hear you.
Hello.
Now I hear you. Go ahead. We can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Now?
Well, kinda. We're gonna have to get Parrish set up with something. I mean, the Elder. Parrish is fine. The Elder. Jesus. Give me your score out of 10.
All right.
A
We'll get that out of
7.
there, just for anything else.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we will work with the Elder to get him prepared. I think maybe if he uses his phone or something, might be better. I don't know. We'll figure out something. We got to have the damn Elder on here. We're no good without the Elder. So we got a 7. Anybody else in the chat? Go ahead.
I'm gonna. I like "Lay Your Hands on Me" a song. It's good. It's a good arena rock song. "Bad Medicine" is not my favorite song. I think it's a retread a little bit of "Living on a Prayer" with the voice box.
You mean the Elder?
Singing everything. And then at the end of it, I think he's channeling Bruce Spring. And then as far as other songs, I think I'll just say, I guess in short, I'm going to say that musically, I like these albums. I think they're great. Guitar work, guitar riffs, but I just don't like the lyrics.
Okay.
Type of lyrics. That album he had. Remember when we lost the keys and you lost more than that in my backseat, baby? I just always think those are just really cheesy and
I never cared for John's vocals, to be quite honest. I don't know. I never could get it. I just didn't get it.
So yeah, a 7 for this. I'm just like, what is that?
Mm-hmm. All right.
But it's
cool.
It's recorded here. They made it sound weird. I mean, it's just, I don't know. Anyway.
All right, good. I'll go with that. All right, I agree with a lot what the panel said. Greg is coming in with a 6.5. I will take that. I'm looking forward to the next two albums that I haven't heard those either. I just think that this is still very commercial, but I can see that there's growth. When I look at the track listing, Lay Your Hands on Me, and they used to play Lay Your Hands on Me. I can't say that I've heard it lately. They still play Bad Medicine. Now the rest of the record, I don't hear any of it. Is it as memorable as what came before? No, I think that there's a maturity factor here. I don't know if necessarily that the material is really any better. I still don't care for the production. You know, the 80s is a when you live through it, I never
produced
thought
this?
twice about,
Who produced this? Was it Bob
Bruce?
Ross?
Fairburn.
Bruce Fairburn.
Fairburn.
But when I lived through it, I didn't think much about the production, but I just don't think this is aged. I just don't think it's aged very well. You know, if you can get past production, I applaud you, but I just have a tough time listening to all that cheesy 80s schmaltz that they thought was so cool.
Okay. No.
You know,
I think Bob Rock engineered it and mixed it, but I think Fairburn's still producing at this point.
yeah.
Okay.
West Coast Dave says, it sounds like these albums were made to try. Well, yeah, they're commercial records. There's nothing here that screams, we're trying to be real We're here to sell records. That's all it is. So take it for what it is, from an artistic standpoint. There's not much anything artistic about it. That's why I'm looking forward to the next two albums. Am I sold yet? No, I am not sold. Hopefully the stuff that's coming up, I will sit and go, wow, that's actually all right. Because that's what I did with We're an American Band. I went, holy crap, this is like the heavens opened up. What a great record. So I'm not sold yet. Go ahead.
Parrish, would you agree with me that we're moving into sort of a more artistic period of the band in the next two?
Well, here's a spoiler. We're going to my favorite Bon Jovi album next, and we're going on to one of my favorite albums of all time next. So, spoiler there. But then, lots of people don't like what I like, so which is fair enough.
Well, I'll probably like what's coming up. Ash said I played 7800 the other day, and it hasn't aged well. It was one of my faves. See, well, things happen. Selling records is not the point of making music. It depends. All these guys wanted to do was sell records, I think. But I don't know. I'm looking forward to hear what we have coming up. So what would I give this? You're not convinced?
I'm not convinced that all they were interested in was selling records.
Okay.
I think they had a tour bus and their mind was on other things around this time.
Probably. All right, so I think that this is probably just a smidgen better.
May have been a means to an end.
Yeah, I think obviously there's a point, to be successful and to sell, and there was a pressure to follow up Slippery and Wet. But I think if their intent was solely and there was no artistic integrity, then it would have sounded like Slippery and Wet Part 2.
Records, there's nothing wrong with wanting to do that.
I think there's an argument that there's certainly a desire to sell records, but I don't think that New Jersey lacks any artistic integrity. I think that they were trying to evolve and were writing not just for the sole purpose of what's commercial, because otherwise I think this record would have sounded like Slippery and Wet Part 2, right? I mean, I think it doesn't. And so that tells me that there's some, you may not like it, and that's okay, but I don't think it lacks sort of artistic integrity, wholesale.
All right, cool. So I gave the other album a 5. I'd probably give this a 5.5. I mean, will I ever return to it again? No, never. But I'm optimistic. I believe you guys know what you're talking about. I'm hoping the next two records we look at, I can.
This is the
Go ahead.
effectively, this is when they broke up, wasn't it? After this album,
Well, right.
they
I
went
mean,
on a
this
hiatus after
tour.
this.
Yeah, I mean famously the story's been told, right? I mean, this tour goes on for 2 years, and they're about ready to die at the end of this tour, and about breaks up the band, right? So after this record, I think the Young Guns record comes out. Richie does Stranger in This Town. I think this stuff happens before we get another Bon Jovi record. I think there's a gap, right, between, and I think when they return and they have a fresh perspective, they're older, and I think that's why we're not going to get, as commercial. I think the material is going to be, like more artistic, and lyrically it's more mature. We're going to see in their last records because these guys have gone off, done a couple of solo records, and then kind of come back around.
Dry Country's my
And
favorite
just
Bon
just
Jovi
to
song.
leave it on a cliffhanger.
Yes.
Just to leave it on a cliffhanger. The next album is their grunge album. So there you go.
I might like that. All right, so what do we give this record? I'm going to calculate it. I don't think people came in as hard and heavy as they did with Slippery When Wet. We're going to calculate this, and we come up with a 7.8.
Survey says
7.8. The other album was a 7.3. So survey says we like New Jersey better than Slippery When Wet.
I will say for those vinyl folks, if you do like this, I know there's a lot of Bon Jovi detractors in our chat today, but if you are a vinyl person, the reissue of New Jersey is a double album, and I think it really lends itself a lot better to the turntable because this album's long. And I think if you go find an original pressing of this, it's a lot of music shoved on vinyl, and I think the sonically suffers a little bit. So, for what
I've already got it, Ash. I've already got it. Well, Ernesta says they sold more records because MTV helped them. No, they sold a lot of records because Bon Jovi was a good-looking guy, and most of the women in the audience wanted to shag him. That's why they were so popular.
Yeah,
it's one of those bands based on looks.
Probably a different panel discussion, but I think the list of bands that MTV helped sell records is very long and distinguished. I mean, MTV was as we know, right, was huge determiner of, who made it and who didn't, for a period of time in the 80s. So certainly they helped Bon Jovi, but they helped a lot of bands.
Yeah.
And hurt bands, right? If you didn't get your video played.
I mean, you can make that argument.
Yeah, July 12th, I'm sure Pumping Vinyl will be over there too to help you guys out. Bon Jovi is cute combined with videos. Yes, Grant, 100%. So I think it had a lot to do with the female audience. So it's fine. That's fine. I don't get much out of these records. I'll never return to them, but I am looking forward to next month, and we'll do those records, and I will be in touch. All right, let's wrap this dog up. I want to thank Dave, the Parish, the Elder. Elder, we need to get together and just do a test. I said that before, but there must be some setting that we need to look at on your computer to make it better. I'll reach out to you. We'll work on it. We'll work on this. All right, he's just trapped in oblivion. Look, see his mouth's hanging open. He's in shock. He's not. Whatever. All right. I want to thank everybody for what? This is never going to work. I want to thank everybody in the chat for jumping in. And I don't know. Some people like Bon Jovi. Some people don't. We'll see next month. Gentlemen, I'll be in touch and we'll get the Elder fixed up. All right, everybody. Have a good one. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, you guys. And thanks, everybody that joined us. Cheers.
All right. See you, everybody.